Welcome to a farmer's hot breakfast show. Today is the day that the Lord has made. Leo niko studioni na wachezaji wa kulipwa. Welcome to a farmer's hot breakfast show from County 034, and I am joined by
Dora Manya,
James Mirara.
James, ongea na sauti kidogo.
Bwana James Mirara.
Oh, karibu sema Bwana Yesu. Welcome again. This is a beautiful day. It has rained. When it rains in County 034, we rejoice. We are happy. We thank God. We actually kneel down. It is very rare to see cars getting stuck in mud in 034, County 034. So when they get stuck, it's like the ninth wonder of the world.
So it's a miracle.
You know, a wonder of the world is beyond a miracle.
So what do you call that?
Wait. I've seen cars getting stuck.
Yes.
You're not worried. Because in the next 30 minutes, I'll start talking to you.
I've seen a Toyota Vitz.
You've seen it?
I've seen it. Inaingia mpaka karibu ina kiss mchanga.
Mwenyewe anaacha tu anaenda nyumbani analala, asubuhi atapata nini mchanga.
Yeah, it's that safe. You leave your car, you
not
go.
Not even safe. It is like people will come there just to take photos and go. You know, they wouldn't steal anything. Vumbi akitengela.
I think he was tired.
Vumbi akitengela, he don't need makeup.
He just got tired. And then he wouldn't find people to like push or pull.
Yes.
So he just decided, okay, this is it.
Kuna wakati nilikwama hapo saa 4 usiku.
What did you do?
It's a particular place, kwani?
Yes.
Just
You know, it's dust. So we have layers of dust.
Okay.
So when it rains, it becomes automatically mud.
Yes. Do something, please.
Juzi nilienda kuchukua soil sample. Siku ile usiku nilikuwa naenda.
Yeah.
It started raining there. The farmer told me it's just like 2 kilometers from the road. So I went 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, 4 kilometers. Then I'm calling her and she's saying, you know me, when I go there, somebody's normally driving. So me, I reach the farm when I'm asleep. So me, I don't know any landmarks there.
Really? A farmer sleeping.
And then the guy on the farm, when I'm calling him, he's like, kuja tu mpaka pale kuna lori imekwama. You know, imagine somebody.
You know landmark sasa mpaka place lori imekwama. You know.
My friend.
I'm from that area.
Chakula unakula.
Mahali lori imekwama. Mwelewe tu lori imekwama.
Thank you for joining us. This is a farmer's breakfast show. Hey, your breakfast naitwa mid morning kwa akili. Breakfast show here at Farmers 034, where we as farmers want you as farmers and stakeholders in the industry to be able to connect, learn and grow. And today we're going to discuss a few things. One, we're going to talk about what are the alternatives of making food cheaper. Tuko na mwenyewe ambaye atatuelezea mambo nimesikia akisema mapuoni.
Oh, really?
Mapuoni. Nimesikia kitu kama mapuoni.
Nimesikia hiyo.
Sasa kama vile masikio yako iko nasikia jana.
Lazima isikie.
And then we'll also talk about what are the reasons why cost of production in farming is high. And one of the things that we'll talk about, as we've been talking about the whole of this week in terms of soil, today we're going to talk about something about money. Whether to lease land, to buy land, or where to lease land to make it cheaper. Availability of water is something that is very key, and that is what we're also touching on briefly today. What we want to do is our norm. We want to make you know what is happening in the news. Then today I'm being helped here. Kuna mtu ambaye atatuambia mambo ya traffic iko namna gani. Jana kwa traffic niliambiwa ati kuna chui imeruka mahali. Nikashindwa hata kuisoma. Then Dora will also talk about the weather. And we've seen that it is raining. The weather patterns have really changed. Climate has changed kabisa. You know, yesterday in my farm in Kajiado, now you know Kajiado is big, in Namanga. The guys on the farm were like, you bring maize seeds we plant. And I'm like, we've never planted maize seeds.
He was excited because of the rain.
Yes. And I'm like, and the tank was supposed to be repaired.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't even need that tank. Ile mvua hapa inanyesha ni mingi. In fact, hata kutuko na managu ya bure tunauza. Yes.
And talking of the rains, by the way,
yes.
The Met Department have already given a warning that we should brace for heavy rains for the next 3 months. So for the next 3 months, wanasema it will pour, it will rain, yani itanyesha mvua. But apparently most Kenyans never believe the Met Department. I've never understood why.
Hata naona umefungua hapo page na shindo tu anyway. Dora, welcome to Farmers.
Thank you.
Yes, karibu sana.
Nice to be here.
This is what we do. Oh, hata wewe karibu
Asante sana.
Yes, welcome. What would like just to talk about, and I want to ask you guys something. Apart from bread and Blue Band, watoto wangu wanapenda blue band na mkate, hata wanaweza kula hiyo na walale. What are the alternatives, and why are we not observing it? Because having been to neighboring to Uganda, unajua nasikia tuko na damu huko hata sijui, lakini labda those guys, bread is not a high selling product
in Uganda.
Yes, in Tanzania it's not a high selling product. Why is it in Kenya that bread, is it that we've been accustomed to like lazima ule mkate na chai asubuhi? Oh, you hear the things they eat like vijanjaro, they eat the beans, they eat and in fact if you look at Western Kenya, the norm breaks at the border.
Yes,
because in Uganda they have alternatives and you don't hear them lacking food. What is the difference in Kenya?
Like yesterday we were discussing with Diana.
Yes.
And on the importance of not wasting food.
Yes.
And we realize it's important, the food that probably you eat at night.
Yes.
Let's talk of githeri. We talked of maybe ugali.
Yes.
It's still possible to make use of that food in the morning before you start your duties. I think it's just a trend or a norm in Kenya that when you wake up you must take tea. And who said you must take tea in the first place?
Yes.
So when people see you taking porridge or even just taking hot water and leaving the house or eating heavy, you know, they think probably you're from a different planet.
I assume you're from Western.
No, I'm just so, you know, people, it's just, I think it's just a norm. Mazoea too, because people are doing it, so you get into the system, you start doing it. But I think people should just define their own lifestyle.
Yes.
You know, just define your own lifestyle, that it must not be bread. It can be anything else. It can be, you know, potatoes.
Yes. It
can be cassava. You know, it can be beans in the morning.
Yes.
And it can be any other food apart from bread.
Because we don't. One of the things that I've seen that is really interesting is the fact that with all these things that are happening, nobody's talking about alternatives. And yes,
I'd say the reason why we lack alternatives is because our mindset are set.
First of all, do we lack alternatives, or we've opted not to?
We've opted.
Yes.
Because I have a story I would tell. Once I was a little boy.
Yes.
I visited my grandfather and I was given ugali.
You're still little
in the morning.
Not that young. So I visited my grannies.
Yes.
And I was given tea and ugali ya jana.
Were you offended?
I got shocked. But after 2 days, 3 days,
yes,
it was sweet. And then they changed.
Yes.
They gave me ndoma. The story came
and you're waiting for bread the third day.
The third day, now that's when you realize they're sweet potatoes. Oh, you know maponi.
Yes.
And then there is cassavas. So the cassava inachemshwa and then asubuhi inakuwa roasted kwa mafuta. You see, it's because we've opted not to take the ancient or the cultural way of doing things.
But still, you can still have cassava bread. It can still be milled.
But people don't want to try things out.
Is it that we don't want to try things out, or we are just lazy? Because, you know, at the end of the day, we have to face the facts. You know, I've seen that lower food prices. It's a trending hashtag.
Sure. Yes.
But when you look at it very critically, what are the foods that are supposed to be reduced? Cooking oil. Who said we have to cook food with oil? If we were to resist. If we were to stop buying cooking oil,
you can still cook.
Can these companies reduce the prices?
I doubt.
Why is it that we are having cooking oil double the price of petrol, and yet they're using that petrol or diesel for production?
Because they know it's a lifestyle of Kenyans. We must buy cooking oil. In fact, today ukienda kwa nyumba ukipika sukuma and you don't see, you know, the mafuta shining, someone tells you no, you didn't put enough cooking oil.
You know, so is it something that we say it's a culture to sema tu ni sawa, ni culture tunalia tu, because it's something for Mirara, wacha niangalie Mirara kidogo. Labda bado kidogo. This is a trend, the election year in our country. It is standard.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was watching some of the clips of politicians who some of them are vying for high positions, including, the highest position in the country in terms of election. And they were actually saying on the year of that election that price of things is normal. And yesterday, there's somebody who actually, the Speaker of Parliament, actually said that the price of food is high because of cartels. And I was very embarrassed that that person would want to be. And the reason why I was embarrassed is because he comes from a community where food, food is in excess.
Yes.
Food is actually thrown away. You saw the other day when we're going to Marsabit.
Yeah, sure.
At night, there were tomatoes being thrown.
On the road.
Very sad.
Yes.
On the road. And then it's so sad because even these tomatoes, they're not like the bad ones. The ones you say,
yes,
these are not good for the market.
As in, it's just excess.
And the
they don't know what to do with it.
Use them.
It's not that it's excess. They're not being, it's not coming in people's minds.
Yes.
That why are we importing tomato juice?
And on our own, we are doing the food waste intentionally.
And we talked about food wastage yesterday here,
and then,
on how we can really prevent food wastage.
Exactly. And you know, there's a campaign that is running, and that is one of the campaigns that we will be mentioning again. It's called No More Food Waste.
Yes.
Because what we are wasting versus what we are consuming is very different.
True.
It doesn't match.
Yeah, we're actually wasting more than what we are using.
I was actually being told that there's a miller in Mwea that 20% of the rice is normally just given out to the birds.
Oh, really?
That is on the way to Marsabit, where people are actually dying of hunger.
Of hunger, yes.
So there's a disconnect in terms of, and that's what I wanted us to delve in a bit more. Is it that we have accepted that it is okay? Or is it that we're not teaching ourselves any different? Because we have crisps made out of potato.
Yeah.
But we also have cassava crisps.
Let me give you an example. Today, if you went to the coast, you realize that people in the coastal region use cassava to the maximum, as opposed probably to Western. Western, for them, it will be either boiling for food or for ugali. But you go to the coast, they make crepes out of it, they use it for ugali, chapati, you know, a lot of varieties. I saw that in the coast and I was like, yes, I think we need to be innovative.
Yes.
We need to just think outside the box.
Yes.
Beyond the boiling and the ugali thing, what else can we be able to do that can also add value to our lives in terms of money in the pocket? Because, you know, when you prepare crepes now, you see that mama in the sokoni jioni working with the crepes, and then you realize she has something in the pocket at the end of the day.
Yes.
So we won't be crying lower food prices, we won't be crying about poverty because we are thinking outside the box. So I think basically we have put ourselves in a place where you don't want to think outside the box. This is the trend. This is how we do it when I wake up in the morning.
Is it
I have
a
to take
zone?
chai, mukate. It's just a comfort
Blue
zone.
Band. I mean,
you know,
who said blue band?
laziness, you know, because you think of boiling cassavas, potatoes, and you say, sasa sangapi.
Because I was asking somebody yesterday, and a very good friend of mine who actually started the hashtag lower food prices, and I asked her, why did you start this? It's like, you know, when we go to do some catering, the price is very high. When you quote, it's very expensive. Then I asked myself, what are the alternatives? You know, Blue Band has reached a certain level. I remember my dad really loves how to cook pork. My dad loves cooking. He loves enjoying food.
Do you?
And I think I followed after him.
Thank you.
My dad never used cooking oil to cook food. Never. Anytime he would cook pork, he would make sure that, you know, that your mafuta pork. Yes. He was putting in pugs. And my mom did not know how to cook, by the way. In fact, my dad says he did not marry my mother because to cook.
So those who marry because their wives know how to cook, I think they should learn from your dad.
My dad taught me that cooking is not a woman's job. Cooking is the job of the person who is hungry.
Oh, sure. I think I love that one.
And my dad, in fact, when he starts to cook for you, atasimu atazima. In fact, when my dad is enjoying his food, you will not call him.
So all the energy goes to the cooking.
Yes.
And he's almost 90, and he said that is one of the things that has actually made him. My dad enjoys his nduma in a certain way. He enjoys his food in a certain way. In fact, my dad, for you to see my dad eating bread is like very hard. Very hard. So coming back to the discussion, is it that it's something that has been set there? Advertisement, tunaona advertisement ya mkate na Blue Band, lakini hatuoni advertisement ya nduma.
I'll look at it this way.
Yes.
now you're talking about your dad, talking about my dad.
Hiyo simu ikianguka na pesa ni ya chakula.
Kampuni
pesa ni ya chakula.
Kampuni itanunua. My dad,
yes,
at his age now, he craves for bread. And probably will understand why. All his years, he's lived eating potatoes, eating cassava, eating jugu, bananas, githeri in the morning.
Yes.
So at his age, over 70,
yes,
and when he craves for bread, I'll understand him. But for a generation kama kina sisi,
yes,
energetic, we're able to explore here and there, I wouldn't understand why you will just stick to one pattern, I'll just say it's just a generation that is lazy.
There's somebody came here. In fact, we have some of the products. He's a very good friend of ours.
Yes.
In fact, we normally say he's a friend of our farmers. She's called Doris. Doris is head of business and commercial for Omnia Fertilizers. And she actually mentioned and looked at the men in this office and actually said, the food you are eating,
it's messing us up,
is actually what is making you take the blue pill.
Thank you.
Because
do you
I don't.
Do you agree or do you take the blue pill?
You've
answered the wrong question.
Yeah, I agree with her. For us, even if you.
But how did you know you agree with her?
Because
anyway, going back.
most young men, you'll find them on Glovo.
Yes,
or
chips,
asking chips,
yes,
asking burgers, asking pizza. But you find these guys are not ready to get into kitchen to learn something, to cook all those ndomas.
Are we telling our children the truth?
We are not.
Because one of the things is that the cost of a pizza, and I'm not saying people should not eat, the cost of it, as you know that the cost of a pizza is the cost of half a sack of potatoes.
Sure.
It's almost the cost of a bundle of maize of flour.
Yeah.
So what are we not telling our kids the truth?
Then we'll come back to blame the parents. You're already teaching these
now
kids.
Now that you've said this, is it our parents or is it us?
It is us, the current generation.
Tulitoa wapi?
Ni kuwa tu kichwa ngumu na kwa moya kwamba it is we are not in those days. The feeling like it's a different world altogether.
So kukula sani yako determines whether we ni mshamba ama we ni modern.
It doesn't determine as such,
yes,
but it's about the mindset of the current generation. That if you don't eat this, it appears like you're not up to standard. If someone comes to your house today and you prepare breakfast, probably there's no omelette, there's no peanut, there's no what, and then you just bring me nduma, someone looks at you like, ay.
Lakini, let me ask you,
what's your problem?
Is it that also atuipiki vizuri? You see that you go to China, you'll eat a frog and you don't know it's a frog because it has been cooked nicely.
Therefore, if it's about cooking, let's now invent other ways of cooking better so that we understand, we actually enjoy what we cook.
Because I think it's a trend that has been there, and this trend is actually just to make money. Because the amount of money that people spend, mukate zamani ilikuwa mukate, ilikuwa buffalo, ilikuwa 500 grams.
Sasa hii kuweka kwa ratili kwanza imepungua.
Yes.
Kuweka kwa ratili imepungua.
Sasa wanasema 400 grams when packed.
Exactly.
Na hiyo karatasi labda ni 100 grams.
Alafu James pekee anaweza kufinya hivi tu mkate full. James anaweza finya tu mara moja.
Walionyesha mara sabini walionyesha vituko hapo jana.
Mtu anafinya tu mkate moja.
Saizi ukifinya mkate ya sasa hivi it's one slice. Na unachapa one na stick moja ya soda.
So ameconfirm 500 grams peke yake anamaliza.
Lakini chakula na wapi James?
Maana inatumika mahali pengine.
And see that the food that we are also consuming, and that is why the food is expensive. It's because we've adopted to a certain way of eating, and we don't care about the nutrition value.
Hapo kwa nutrition
at all.
You take uji asubuhi. You take let's just use tea because I think most households use tea or coffee. You take tea naona ingine pale kwa flask ndio hiyo sasa. You take chai and then kwani mimi tu ndio sikuwa nayo
era kikombe tukumwagie.
So you take chai, probably na bread in the morning. Unakuja mchana you eat githeri yenye umechanganya na ngwashe. Unakuja usiku unakula ugali na cabbage. So it's not even about nutrition. It's about kula kushiba, in fact kushiba unakula kuchoka. Until you're tired of kutafuna. You don't even eat kushiba, tunakula kuchoka, ukichoka ndo unaacha.
Nasikia watu wa Western tunakulanga kushiba. Basi ndio unashiba, unasema tu nimechoka
kutafuna.
Nisikia mwingine akisema mchele ni glucose.
Ama mbegu. In fact, to give someone a rice na ndengu or beans, kwambia bwana sasa nitakulaje mbegu mbili na nilala. Unanipeleka mbegu, you know. So I think it's just a lifestyle, a mindset, you know. Kula mbegu.
That's a fresh one. Tunakula mbegu.
Unakula mbegu. You know,
So I think to some extent what we are actually doing is that we are doing an injustice to our pockets, we're doing an injustice to our children, and in the process our life becomes very expensive because it's a lifestyle thing. And it's not we're not surviving. We want to form a certain perception in our minds, in our children's minds, you know, like
even also we are trying to compete within ourselves. If I see you post a picture on the Instagram or Facebook or in social media, I'll also not post my ndomas, I'll go post high-end CJs and whatever food.
How I wish people understood that vitu kwa ground zinakuaga different.
Love that I download your picture.
Exactly.
You see,
or it was just a tweet by a friend.
For me, I'll go take a good picture for business. You see,
wacha nikwambie. I used to admire hizo picture.
Yeah.
There's a day we went for a photo shoot for food. Those things are actually molds.
Yeah.
This is not even actual food. It's molds that have been put there. Zimetengenezwa, inapakwa rangi huku.
I'll tell you.
Picha inapigwa inawekewa hata reflector.
I'll tell you as a designer. You see,
nilitoka hapa nikawachana na chakula kama hiyo.
Kuna kitu tunaita white screen. We also do that and design food with colorful, pleasing to your eyes. So for me,
the meal becomes sumptuous.
For me, I'll post that for high-end hotels to buy my work. But for you tend to think, James is living the life.
But
guys, forget this is my work. I'm doing, and I'm paid for that. But kwa ground huko bibi ananipikia bana ndoma managu na malenge.
But I think we just need to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Do some reality checks.
Yes.
Look at your pocket and the kind of lifestyle you're living. Live your life.
But see, even if you're looking at your pocket, at the end of the day is affordability, because the whole essence of food security is safe, healthy and affordable. And this affordable, it means that now you also need to make sure that when it is safe, it means that haina magonjwa yote, haina madawa na vitu kama hivyo.
And it has a nutrition.
And then healthy is now the nutrition bit of it.
True.
So when you look at it very critically, what is the nutrition value as compared to even the calories that you're adding to your body of bread?
Yeah.
What is the nutrition value of tea?
I think we also need to understand.
Even when the packaged bread.
Yes.
Do you tend to read the nutritional value ya bread?
No, we are busy.
Do you read those things?
Sasa saa ngapi? Tutasoma saa ngapi?
Yako ni kukula.
Mimi huwa naangalia tu expiry date.
Mimi hata expiry yangu.
Naangalia tu expiry date alafu mimi carry what I want.
Because ya ndoma utasema ijaandikwa. But you know it's
na nduma si lazima uangalie expiry, utaangalia tu unaona tu iko nini.
But it's important to let our viewers know that we have no problem with people eating bread, eating sausages, eating burgers and everything. We're just looking at this hashtag already still there.
Yes.
The cost of food, complaining about our pockets. What else can we do to ensure that life is manageable, that we don't have to keep complaining and complaining, gharama ya maisha imepanda. That's what we're saying. There are alternative foods.
On the break. We're going for a short break. When we come back, we'll have something important.
Eggplant is an elongated shaped and dark purple fruit, and its leaves are large, ovate and slightly lobed. Eggplant is a perennial crop but grown commercially as annual. Eggplant grows best in well-drained sandy loam or loam soil. The soil pH should be between 5.8 and 6.5 for best growth. Eggplant requires a regular watering and steadily warm growing conditions.
Amaranthus, or locally known as terere, is a highly nutritious vegetable that is cultivated and consumed as a leafy vegetable in many parts of the world. It's easy to grow, matures fast, as it takes an incredible shorter period than most traditional crops. There are many species of amaranthus, with some green and others red in color. When growing amaranthus, ensure the soil is well drained and rich in phosphorus, and most importantly, ensure the seeds are well distributed to achieve an even spread when establishing a grain amaranthus field. Amaranthus is especially loved for its tender leaves and for their healthy dose of ions, vitamins, and a range of minerals.
Agriculture is the art and science of cultivating the soil, growing crops, and raising livestock. Agriculture provides most of the world's food and fabrics. It is not only a source of food and income, but also creates employment opportunities for many people in the world. Over 1 billion people worldwide work in agriculture, generating 2.4 trillion for the global economy. The global impact of farming on the environment is revealed that 40% of the Earth's land is now given over to agriculture. Agricultural development is one of the most powerful tools to end extreme poverty, boost shared prosperity, and feed a projected 9.7 billion people by 2050. And we, the Our Farmers Media, roll the carpet for you as we welcome you to our thrilling farm visits to different farmers that educate and inspire you in different sectors in agriculture. Catch us also on our shows on all our social media platforms as we bring you educative and informative information that will help you learn and guide you on your agriculture journey to success. Our farmers attain knowledge and grow profits.
Beetroot is a highly nutritious root vegetable. The beetroot is the taproot portion of a beet plant. It is one of the many varieties of the genus Beta vulgaris, all of which are mostly grown for their edible taproots and leaves. Beetroot is a root crop that takes approximately 3 to 4 months to mature. Beetroot is a fairly easy crop to grow as long as the soil is well cultivated prior to planting. Beetroots do not enjoy wet, boggy or shady soils. Beetroot can be sown in trays and transplanted when the seedlings have 2 true leaves. Plant in full sun, space seedlings 10 to 15 centimeters apart, and rows 20 centimeters to 30 centimeters apart so they have room to grow. Beetroots are also ideal for containers or raised beds. Beetroots will happily thrive in small areas as long as there is at least 20 centimeters depth of soil. Beetroot has been used not only for food but also for treatment for numerous conditions.
Welcome back to a Farmer's Breakfast Show. We had to take a short break. But one of the things that, again, at Gender Talk, we've not eaten any food. We'd really have loved to. What we're discussing today is what are the alternatives of foods that we're eating that can help us reduce the costs of food. And what we've seen is that our lifestyle is what is determining the price of food. One is because we have adopted to certain food styles that are not affordable. The cost of production, which we cannot deny, is that the cost of production of food locally in our country is too high. Farmers cannot be able to produce affordable food or even good food because, one, cost of fertilizer and other inputs has actually doubled and in some instances even tripled. And one of the things that we want to discuss, as we've been discussing this morning, is how can we change this, the norm that we have right now? What are the things that probably we can be able to do as consumers? One is, and I keep on saying this, is let us buy directly from farmers. You know, when you buy from farmers directly, hata kuna unasikia kwa hoteli kuna kuanga na ugali sosa.
Hata kuongezea juu.
Mbona usikiki?
We'll add you up. Kuna gunia niliona ikifungwa ya viazi.
Yes.
Anakufungia in a way that mpaka yenyewe mwenyewe unafurahia. But for this, if we are buying from, this was for broker,
yes,
the farmer now.
Yes.
If it was for the the end buyer,
yes,
anakuleta ama farmer anauzia,
yes,
the end consumer,
yes,
it would have been better. Because you find that even when the farmer is selling to a broker now, it's at a loss.
Yes.
The farmer is not receiving what he used on the farm.
Yes.
And that's why we are saying when a farmer is given what it's needed for him.
Yes.
Actually, it can help more to save on food.
Yes.
And it cannot go to waste.
And talking of brokers, probably,
we
need to have a discussion on this. Is it possible for the farmers to work without brokers? Can you just work alone from your farm to the market without these people?
So let me just be very honest.
So what do you do to coexist therefore?
You know, brokers are the necessary evil. I always say that because I've been a farmer and I know that sometimes I cannot sell my produce constantly. So what I always advise farmers is that make sure you understand your cost of production. If you can understand your cost of production, that goes back now to saying no, zero taxes to farm inputs, so that we can compete with somebody bringing produce any other place. But even locally, there's a time we went to visit, we were actually given an opportunity by Madam Ann Nyaga, our super CAS of agriculture, who actually told us, let's just go and see what government is doing. And so we went around and saw some of the dams in Nyeri. As we were going round, we realized that the cost of production of food in some parts of our country is very low, lower than the food that is actually coming in as imports. One, Nyeri do not use irrigation to grow cabbages, and it's very big cabbages.
Sure.
I use irrigation to grow cabbages.
Yeah.
Nyeri do not use drip irrigation. They don't need drip irrigation per se. I use drip irrigation, so my cost of production is already going high.
Yes.
But on the other way, Nyeri cannot grow tomatoes, but we can grow tomatoes at a cheaper rate, meaning we can now, as you're saying, coexisting. When it comes to actually buying food, there's nobody who knows ini cabbage ya Nyeri. Hakuna. There's nobody who says, exactly, there's nobody says that this is cabbage from onions from Tanzania. Nobody knows. Hakuna vile imeandikwa imewekwa watermark ya jamaa design. Watermark ya made in Tanzania.
So the bottom line is you must calculate your cost of production.
Period.
But few farmers know how to do that.
Hiyo hata usianzi hapo leo.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it sometime later this week.
Okay.
And that is where the disconnect is. Because the disconnect can only come if somebody does not know how much to sell.
Sure.
You know, farmers are in a scenario where you get a farm somewhere, you're told cost of leasing is this much, which we'll touch on in the next few minutes. You're told here in this area labor is charged this much. You are told this in this area is this much. Fertilizer here is this much. When you go to the market, when you reach there, what do you normally ask? Mnanunua nyanya na pesa ngapi?
Na pesa ngapi? Just that, nothing else. Mnanunua na pesa ngapi?
Unajifix kwa hiyo bei without knowing what you've gone through.
And you say, since you didn't calculate your cost of production, One thing you didn't know is that you didn't realize that the cost of production at this level was high. And it was high because of this.
Yeah.
That on its own is a contributing factor to the increase in food prices.
Yeah.
Brokers are a necessary evil. Remember, brokers exist whether the price is high or low.
Yeah. They'll always be there.
Yes. So it's us to say, lafu pia kuna hii unity hakuna. Unity amongst farmers hakuna.
Yeah.
Hakuna. Farmers wamefanya vile tumefanya hii label. They remove this label so that your neighbor does not know what you're using to on your farm.
Yeah.
So when the broker comes to buy, anasema pale kwa James hata wamenuzia na 20 bob.
Wamenuzia na 20 bob.
Anyway, wacha tu nichukue, wacha nikusaidie tu na kuchukua ile kidogo kidogo. Finished.
True.
Actually, they come with a lower price than what they have bought to the next.
Let's look at the weather forecast.
Right, this is a farmers media breakfast show, and there's so much happening. The rains are almost everywhere. Like in our county, yesterday, it rained, it poured. And as we started, I said the Met Department has warned that we'll have a downfall for the next 3 months. Kenyans are still questioning that. Someone was saying on social media that they wait for it to rain, then they start giving you the forecast. Before it rains, they don't tell you kwamba it will be raining in the next 3 months. So I don't know if people have Kenyans have a problem with the Met Department. Probably need to bring those guys here one of these fine days just to.
The hardest thing to predict is weather.
Yeah.
Because it's a natural phenomenon. And we have not seen, but anyway, just finish first.
Yeah, parts of Siaya, Kisumu, Kisii, Vihiga, Bungoma, Laikipia, Kakamega, Nakuru, huko ndo wanasema they'll have abnormal rainfall for the next 3 months. But looking at the weather here in Nairobi, of course, sun intervals, temperatures of 16 and a maximum of 27. That's what we expect. At night, rain, sun intervals, kidogo, I mean in the evening, kidogo kidogo. And then Mombasa, sun intervals expected today. Kisumu pia wanasema sun intervals we're expecting today. The temperatures by the way are high in Kisumu, a maximum of 29 degrees centigrade, and where else? Mahali pengine it's high is Nairobi pia. Yes. Maximum ya 29. Yes. 29 iko juu
Yes.
Kisumu pia itakuwa juu kidogo. So we expect, I think most of the parts of the country will have sunny intervals, and maybe at night, probably we expect rains here and there.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's something that I want to read. Just adding on that, it's a very interesting piece of information there that actually was shared with me with it was actually in the papers. Yeah. And this is by a very good friend of mine, a childhood friend called Lilian Onyango, and she's actually mentioned something very interesting, that ignoring views dims food security. It's a piece of news that actually was written a few years back, but it's coming to bite now.
Yeah.
And it's coming to bite because what she says is that we have ignored. Actually, let me put it. The question we should be asking ourselves in the first place is whether big agriculture projects are an effective solution to chronic food, nutrition insecurity, when we are working in a context where the majority of farmers are smallholders, and the problem of food security is not one of production, but rather distribution and economic access. Meaning, we are bringing and thinking about these big solutions, big technology solution, agri-tech, thinking about those big things. Smallholder farmers do not care about those things.
Yeah.
Smallholder farmers want to know, how can I use my 1/8 of an acre with the most affordable inputs and produce food for myself as well as the excess to sell?
And that makes me understand farmers like a place in Kericho when they were protesting that time about harvesters.
The combined harvesters.
Combined harvesters.
Yes.
So
the tea, the automatic tea. Yes.
So they're like, if we incorporate technology, then we're losing jobs as well.
Exactly.
So I think we're talking big about technology without looking at the impact necessarily on the people who have been doing this manual work. That thing. So in as much as we're looking at technology and we cannot run away from it, how can it be incorporated slowly into the agricultural sector, bit by bit, without wanting just you cannot wake up today. Tumie mfano ya CBC. CBC hawakuamka and they decided now it's now time to change the curriculum. It was incorporated stage by stage, and I think you're seeing the pioneer class this year doing the exams. So even with technology,
but I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant.
Yes, so it should be incorporated step by step. We cannot rush farmers through this. And can we have farm education, make them understand why probably we need to incorporate technology in our farming. We don't just say it's now time to move from analog to digital without taking them through the process step by step.
I don't understand some things, but let me just add on to some of the things that Lillian actually mentioned here. Lillian said there is no meaningful political commitment. This was 3 years ago, to institute small-scale irrigation projects. Small-scale irrigation projects. Kama Marsabit tuliona maji, lakini hakuna mboga. Enhance access to and knowledge about ecological ways of farming alongside other measures that will improve our situation. There's a point that actually, unasikia Waswahili akina Dora wanasema umegonga ndipo. The same goes for post-harvest losses. Why are we so set on the production side of this equation when an estimated 40% of food that is produced ends up going to waste? Back to the topic you were discussing yesterday.
Yes, food wastage.
Food wastage. Let me tell you, food wastage is so huge. The food that we took to Marsabit was food that would have gone to waste.
Most of it actually was going.
We reached there, and the amount of food that was being wasted, the fish that is available in Lake Turkana is actually going to waste. They have the sun to be able to dry that fish.
Yeah, sure.
But they're not using it.
So who is to blame here? Is it that the farmers, the people, do not have the information, or we just decided to live like that?
Number one, for sure, yes, as much as we say, government has failed us. One, and I say this across everywhere I've given an opportunity to, you cannot devolve agriculture. It's your number one employer.
But it was devolved, right?
Yes. The amount of money the county governments is allocating to agriculture, I don't think there's a county that is actually dedicated more than 5% of their county budgets to agriculture. No.
And that's why farmers are crying.
And yet, Kajiado County can produce enough food to help feed parts of Coast. Who said Coast cannot produce its own food? It can
produce.
Okay? Kiambu County is prime. And I say Kiambu, Machakos counties, those are counties that are accessible to the airport.
Yeah.
If you see the amount of food that is wasted as rejects from the airport is huge. Okay? Yeah. So one of the things that
I've never understood your rejected food where it goes. What do they take the French beans?
Nakuza French beans. You've opened an unhealed wound. Nililetewa reject ya 12 tons.
12 tons.
And I had just delivered 3 tons.
What?
Nikaambia, no, the ones delivered, it's 12 tons.
So ukapeleka wapi?
So tulipelekana hivi. Because one of the things I just asked, okay, thank you. I can take my 12 tons, fine. But I just delivered 3 tons. Kwani imezalia kwa warehouse. And when we delivered, we made sure that we took it into the cold room. Yeah. It was graded well. And
you're not expecting
exactly. And let me just finish what Lillian says here. She says that until talk is matched with action, and the views of other stakeholders are taken seriously, we will continue doing the same thing over and over again, while wondering and why many Kenyans still struggle to access quality food, and our human right remains an illusion. Thank you very much, Lillian, for this brilliant piece that you actually wrote. Now, let us go back to something else that I wanted us to discuss. But before that, kama kuna traffic update kwanza.
Yeah, there is.
Yes, and then we'll do just briefly like newspaper review. Naambiwa hapa na director kwamba masaa inayoyoma. But there's something that I just wanted to bring out very, very interestingly about GMO and all that. Any traffic update?
Yeah, there is some traffic update. Thika Road inatufanya ile kitu still catchy and sticky. Imeshikana kushikana.
Ebu sema tena tina.
Inatufanya ile kitu.
Unajua kile wewe inafanya.
Wewe inafanya. I'm from that road and I can tell you it's just another thing. When you're stuck in that traffic, to get to town, you'll have to cry. You'll have to use another road. Ngong Road, from Ngong, imeshikana pia. From a place called Embambul, packed up maybe to use another road. Let's use the Kerarapon or Karinde. Umoja, from Umoja, pia it's a mess. Jogo Road, it's another mess. Thick to thick. I think that's now for now. The next I'll update you later.
Again, hapo umesema umetumia lugha ya nyumbani, thick to thick. Thank you for those who are watching us. This is a Farmer's Breakfast Show, and as we're discussing what are the ways that we can be able to lower food prices. You know, one is adapting other alternatives, and we've seen there's quite a lot. Tumeambiwa kuna mapuni, sweet potatoes, and other alternatives is nduma. For those who don't know our language, here it's arrowroot, there's cassava. There's so much food that we can be able to say that we can adapt to and be able to consume. You know, when we're going to Marsabit, we had a friend of ours who wanted to donate pumpkins.
Yeah.
But we were told you cannot take pumpkins to Marsabit.
Reason?
They have never eaten pumpkins. And they don't understand how they can eat pumpkins.
So you decided not to take?
Hatukupeleka.
Ngenda na kidogo sample. Alafu you give or try out. So at the next journey when we go back,
tukipika tukule
then come, let's eat, you know. Then the next journey now, you know, ni vile tu
vile umesema kwanza nimeipicture tu hiyo pumpkin hapo na samaki hiyo.
You know, let me just say something. Sometimes inakuwa ni vile watu hawajui, but someone needs to tell them. Can I tell you something?
So it also goes back to education.
Yeah.
The first time nilikula watermelon. Sikuwa najua tofauti ya watermelon na pumpkin. So the watermelon was brought.
Kula hivi akafikiri ni pumpkin.
No, not even the eating. The watermelon was brought and we in the house. So whoever brought it na yake enda shughuli zake. So sisi we thought ni pumpkin.
Ulipika
so tukapika watermelon. Trust me. We boil.
Alternative food source.
Yes. So sisi we thought ni pumpkin. So we can be blaming what I'm talking. This is real. I was in Nanyuki.
Ngoja kidogo. Hiyo ilikuwa supu.
Sasa kitu ilikuwa inatushangaza. Yes, tuko tunashangaa na hii pumpkin, kuna pumpkin nyingine ya red.
Yes.
You know. Oh goodness. So please, when you go, just go with kidogo.
Yes. Let me ask. Unapika mnakula wenyewe?
Did it took you to cook and eat?
No, we did. Sasa tuliweka kwa sufuria. And kwanza tulikuwa tunajiuliza why is it red? So we said, inakaa kuna nyuki, inakaa kuna
mchanga yao ni tofauti.
Mchanga yao ni tofauti ama kuna variety nyingine we've never seen there part of the world. So we boil, kept waiting, checking tulikuwa tunaona kala. I don't want to talk about it. Let's wait for another day. You know, we boiled watermelon.
But
trust me.
I concur with her.
Yeah.
It's good.
Wewe unatupeleka hii story haraka.
Nataka No, you see.
So mlikatakata the red part ama mlikatakata vile watu walipika pumpkin?
The way you do pumpkin, you know.
So amkona iko na maji mingi.
Sasa tuliona iko na maji na hiyo pumpkin nyingine si wao mnatoa seeds. So for this one we tried kutoa lakini
ilikuwa mingi.
Tukaona ziko mingi so kuna tukaweka zingine na seeds.
Labda ile inakuja na supu yake.
He said maybe this one is different. So he said this one is a good one. So tukaweka kwa sufuria and you know for pumpkins the soup wasn't red now. You know, we put it in the sufuria and then waited.
Did you mix with viazi or something?
No, can you leave that story here for today? We'll continue with it. You really interested?
I want to understand. No,
I'm imagining
something else.
I'm imagining
Man, it's
watermelon is sugary.
Sure.
When you put heat, it starts fermenting.
Leave alone heat. When you cook pumpkin, si huwa mnaeka chumvi.
Please.
Imagine the scenario.
Have you ever drunk ile maji mtoto upewa ya chumvi na sukari? So you did that.
Yeah, when you cook pumpkin kwa kawaida, si unyunyuzie some salt.
Yeah.
Ni mkeka salt.
Yes, of course. We were cooking pumpkins. Only to to realize ni watermelon. So don't blame Marsabit. And I don't think it was a good idea for you guys not to carry pumpkins. You will have carried some pumpkins just for trial. Nyo wenye mkule wakuje waonje. I mean, Kenya, it's Laura talking. I was in a nyuki. Nasema na nyuki yenyewe ni wali tofauti.
Ati unajua mchanga na nyuki ko volcanic kidogo.
Anasema maybe the pumpkin here
is different, man.
And that goes back to the discussion. You know, yesterday when you're asking me, what do we discuss? Nilikaa nikafikiria. Malenge is very affordable. The alternative sources of food is very affordable.
Yeah.
When it reaches Nairobi, automatically it's expensive. There's a day I went to visit a farmer in Homa Bay. And on the way, I had a small car. On the way I was going there and I realized, kuna kasoro kidogo kwa barabara. So I even called this farmer and I was like, am I really on the right road? And he was like, yes, that's the right road. And I asked, and you want to grow tomatoes? She was like, yes, I want to grow tomatoes. I told her, no, why do you have to grow tomatoes? And yet, your soil is so healthy. So I'm going to nduma. You know, ile nduma inakuwa purple.
Yeah.
On the road, sweet potatoes, kubwa, cassava, spring onions. And the spring onions are growing like weeds.
Yeah.
So I asked her, why do you want to change this? You're like, that particular food does not have value.
Or the market.
I asked her, can you get even just a 3-ton truck and bring that produce to Nairobi? We organized. She got a truck. That produce did not pass Nakuru.
I was actually to ask that because
see, Nakuru soils, Nakuru diverse are volcanic, meaning they cannot retain a lot of water.
Yeah.
So vitu kama nduma nini ni ngumu sana. Na hapo tulikuwa tumeweka miwa pia. If it wasn't for some other engagements, I would have ningeanza kwa broker sweet potatoes. So I think what we're discussing here is something very important, because lowering food prices is fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. But probably we just say there are specific things that we need to lower, like price of mafuta, the rest, sugar as well. But again, that brings us into a disconnect. Kenya has sugar factories, but sugar prices are higher. That sugar comes in from Brazil
and Uganda.
Yeah. Maize comes from Uganda, Congo. And yet, maize is being grown there, and it's not their staple food. Why do you think it's not the staple food? Because they use that for the chicken feeds. Because they realize maize takes 8 months. You cannot feed a country with a variety, with food that takes 8 months to be ready.
That's almost a year.
Yes. That people who actually grow the same maize even sell and have to look for money to buy maize for themselves.
I think this is a discussion that will never end. We really need to keep talking about it. And before you even take us to issues of leasing and talking about the cost of production, maybe you remind our farmers about why it's important to ensure that they gear up when spraying their crops.
That is
courtesy of markup.
Yes, that is something that I was actually going to next, and that's just one of the reasons why this campaign is actually being run by Market Access program, is the fact that there has been an over-reliance on pesticides for farming. And automatically that also increases the cost of production. And as we've been talking about scouting and all that, scouting is important, it's very important, but scouting is not just about scouting. Scouting is more than just that. And today we just want to mention a few things that probably it would be good for you as a farmer just to adapt to be able to understand that one of the ways of lowering food prices is just reducing your cost of sprays. Because we are told to spray every 4 days, sometimes every 7 days. But is it important? Is it a must for us to do that? One of the things that you can be able to do as a farmer is to be able to attend some of these trainings that are there. A key message is just make sure that you attend key farmer trainings on good agricultural practices and pesticide use. So good agricultural practices is standard. Kulima, kupalilia, vitu kama hivyo. Lakini The next is pesticide use. Hata wewe ukienda kwa daktari, you don't just take all the medicine. You're actually told, take this. Ikishindikana, then visit a doctor, okay? So the key message here is just make sure that you identify where you can be able to get some of these trainings, and we as a farmers can always be able to organize this message, having been brought to you through by Markup Access Upgrade Program, which are doing an amazing job to be able to make sure that we as farmers reduce our cost of production, produce safe and healthy, affordable food. And this whole campaign is actually being run by UNIDO, United Nations Industrial Development Organization. Let me ask you, when we do spraying, I want to touch on this a bit more. Even when you're sanitizing, how do you sanitize? Imagine if we was to sanitize without a mask. Imagine sanitizing without a mask.
Sanitizing without a mask?
Yes. Imagine we were just sanitizing, and now got to have a mask.
But let's touch on fumigation. How you fumigate or
without a mask.
Without a mask.
Yes.
That is that spray that enters.
Exactly.
You see.
Yes. So we'll be preventing corona coming to our hands, but we're actually inhaling the chemicals.
Sure.
The same with you as a farmer. When you're spraying, one of the most important things that you have to make sure you do is that you have to wear that gear. The gear that prevents you from getting from the harmful chemicals entering your body when it is raw. Yes. When it goes to the crops, it takes some time. The crop goes through the natural process of breaking down the chemicals, and it's ready. But you are taking it raw if you don't wear that.
Which is dangerous to
County 034 is too hot, but you make sure that you can identify key times, early in the morning or late in the evening, when you can be able to spray when it's not too hot, because you have to protect yourself, protect the people who are actually spraying on your farm.
Perfect.
Now, I don't know if I will go. Naambiwa lazima tuende break kidogo.
It's okay.
We're going for a short break. When we come back, we will talk about something very important. How to lower your cost of production by identifying the ideal place to farm, how to lease, where to lease, and what to request for, or whether to buy. This is a Farmer's Breakfast Show.
Spinach is a dark leafy vegetable that originated in Persia. Spinach is a superfood as it is loaded with tons of nutrients in a low-calorie package. Spinach has been used by various cultures throughout the history. Spinach is a versatile vegetable and can be eaten raw or cooked. It can be incorporated quite easily in any diet as it is cheap and easy to prepare.
Celery is a marshland plant that comes from the same family as carrots and parsley. It has long, firm and pale green fibrous stalks and grows in bunches of approximately 8 to 10 centimeters. The stalks taper into leaves at the top. When planting celery, it's best to ensure that the soil is enriched with compost and with a soil pH of between 5.8 to 6.8. It is also important for celery to grow in moisture-retentive soil. Lastly but not the least, select a site that receives full and direct sunlight. Celery needs about 130 to 140 days to mature between seedling and harvest. Growing celery is generally considered to be an ultimate vegetable gardening challenge. It's easy to grow, but has very specific needs.
A nursery bed is a small area of a yard or garden that's used for growing certain selected plants. The goal of a nursery bed is to grow young plants to a certain size at which they can be easily transplanted. A nursery bed can also be used to evaluate plants to see if they are worthy of planting in the larger garden, to observe their growth, habit, and color, or watch them for pests and diseases. A nursery bed is especially helpful for vegetable gardeners practicing succession in planting, in which a steady supply of fresh produce is maintained.
Welcome back to a Farmer's Breakfast Show right here from County 034. Remember, if you're watching us, continue following us on our social media handles at Farmers with a Z, Africa Farmers Club. Again, we have a fantastic group of close to 162,000 farmers across sub-Saharan Africa interacting, and also on our YouTube channel, A Farmers Media. One of the things that you should also remember is that we want you to succeed. As we want to succeed, personally, I have been farming for 15 years. So you can also follow me on at Nasialin, at Noah Nasiali, and
at Dora Manya.
Yeah, Dora Manya iko pale Twitter. Twitter lilishinda.
Alafu pia at Farmers Z underscore.
Farmers Z, Twitter.
Yes.
Like, what do you do on Twitter? Maybe Twitter lilishinda. I reach there and I type hivi. Nasema hapana. Naanza kuona kitu inarudisha.
What do you do on Facebook?
6523 at you out of words. How?
Oh,
niko na maneno mengi. Yes, and
at Bearded Mirara.
Can you say that again, please?
At Bearded Mirara.
Beard as in beard.
Yeah, beard.
Wacha nikuulize sasa, siku ile utanyoa. We have been discussing how to lower price of foods. We are coming back into a discussion about how to list land, but just before that, we asked a question. We asked a question on Africa Farmers Club. As a farmer, what is an ideal meal? And most of you have actually said that an ideal meal would be arrowroots, porridge, and groundnuts.
Really?
Interesting. So
I won.
Yes, you won. Very interesting. Nobody has chosen bread, tea, coffee, eggs.
Really?
Nobody.
No, let's give it some time. Probably before the end of the day, we'll see.
Yeah,
we can compare that tomorrow.
I think evening drive wanatupatia feedback. Yeah. We want to get into the topic. Part of the discussion that we are discussing today, how to lower food prices, is actually the cost of you buying or leasing land when you're doing farming. What are the pros? What are the cons? Tutaanza kwanza na Mirara. Wacha nikuulize. How come some men have said they're not giving their daughters land?
You see, I think people are taking that from their elders, because they found them not giving people land, or their daughters land.
Yes.
But there is something I read.
Yes.
I think it's in West Africa. Most they are giving their daughters or their sons lands. They are giving their daughters or their sons lands.
Me, I will give my daughters land.
I concur with that, because these people, maybe my son will not do much with that land, but my daughter, maybe she wants to execute the land, and maybe do some farming, or if not farming, some development on that land.
Yes.
So why not give them the equal share of what I intend to give them? And maybe my son is into tech or something. He doesn't need the land for that.
What if your culture doesn't allow?
You see,
culture is there's
there's
nothing like culture. Culture is convenience.
Okay.
Culture is convenient. Let us face the fact. You remember when you're discussing when you're going to Marsabit about some certain culture. I think culture is a convenience.
Yeah.
Because, for example, in my culture, where we actually come from the lineage of Nabongo Mumia, we are told we are not supposed to serve people. That even to the extent that my own relatives cannot serve us in any political seat. Because you're a servant. So unaona hiyo ni culture.
So if you
culture ilikuwa kwamba mzee peke yake ndio anakula thighs na nini na indumbu ya kuku.
Kuna mwenye anasema atakula.
But it's because that culture, it was not culture, it was just that these old men are ni ngumu, so they cannot eat their
But so, it means, therefore, we come back to this generation that I was talking about. How then are we delinking ourselves from probably some of those cultures without being offensive? It means there has to be enough education
to understand what that culture was.
Exactly. Why will you deny your daughter a piece of land? You have a whole 70 acres of land, and you have one son and 6 daughters.
Unapata kijana anachukua hiyo shamba anakatakata broti maguta.
Yes. So let's not force them, but slowly engage them to understand why it's important for their daughters also to inherit that land, and let them understand that a boy or a girl ni watoto.
Now,
a different discussion altogether.
Leasing land is like renting a house.
Yeah.
Do you buy a house or do you rent a house? When it comes to farming, go to places where, even if the cost of renting is a bit high, make sure there are other alternatives. For example, security, kohapo, it's accessibility to the road, accessibility to markets, accessibility to areas where people have purchasing power. Yeah. Because one of the things that I've seen many farmers do, and I started there because I leased land a while back. I leased land that was 13 kilometers
away
from the road. When it rained, it looked like it was like going to Marsabit.
This Marsabit.
1,000 plus.
No, tutakutuma Marsabit. Tutakupeleka Marsabit.
I am willing.
Hapo utavaa dust mask. Inatoa dust what? Hiyo mask.
Hiyo mask tu
hata utupe.
Sina shida kabisa. Mkulima hakuna mahali hawezi kufika.
And advice with your beautiful hair or your hair. Tafuta ile helmet.
Yes.
Because the way you come back.
Ntanyoa tu. Yeah. Ntanyoa tu.
I'll show you a picture.
You're talking about having this land.
Die red kama. So when you're coming to leasing land, what I've seen the challenge that most farmers are facing is that they are excited about farming. They do not know that farming starts with the point at which you actually lease land. If you're going to lease land, make sure that the land that you're leasing, number one, soil test has been done. It is not your land. So if you're going to start, make sure the owner of the land has tested the soil so that it tells you that it is worth you leasing. Yeah. I see farmers starting leasing land, then doing a soil test. What if it's not suitable?
Actually, most of them, they don't do soil tests.
Yes.
They come, they lease the land, they bring the tractor, it plows.
Yes.
And immediately after plowing, they plant.
Let's then come back here. When you're talking about leasing and you're talking about soil test and all that.
Yes.
Let's compare. Is it now you're saying it's easier, it's advantageous for a farmer to lease than to buy land?
Yes. Buying land for farming is like dead stock. Buying land for farming is like dead stock unless you already have a big market. You know what you're going to grow. You're going to grow it for a certain period to start farming.
Ensure the soil is tested. What else?
So number one, you make sure that the soil has been tested vizuri. Now you're a credible company. The next thing that you have to make sure that the land, even before testing the soil, the land is accessible to market. A market that has a buying culture. Yeah. There's some markets that don't have buying culture. For example, ukienda ulease land karibu na kwetu kule Mumias, na useme unataka kupanda nyanya na waru, iko kasoro. Because yes, there is money, but they don't have disposable income. You get the scenario?
Yeah. Yes.
Na hawatakula, wamezoea kula chakula bila nyanya. Sasa unawapelekea nyanya. Your immediate market. So when you're leasing land, your immediate market is the market next to your farm. So that kuna watu watakuja kununulia kwa gate, farm gate prices. There's already people know that in these areas kuna wakulima. Lakini wewe umeenda huko ndani mahali haujulikani, unapata shida, hata kwa hiyo barabara hakuna mtu anapita.
And then
just because it is affordable.
Unapata even your neighbors are not farming.
Yes.
Lakini sasa let's just be practical and honest.
Yes.
Let's say I lease land maybe closer to where I stay or something.
Not where you stay,
or
closer to a market.
To a market.
You can even go anywhere. Yeah. But for me, if I was to lease land in Western Kenya, I would prefer to have land, to lease land in Bungoma and not Mumias. Are you seeing the difference? You know, I even if land is cheap in Musanda, that cost that you're saying is cheap, you will incur it in transport.
Than what you could have incurred.
So it's cheaper leasing land for me as a farmer.
Yes.
I was just looking at a quote from someone, I think Nasiali utapenda hii kwamba this guy is called Donald B. Grant. Anasema, why own a cow when the milk is so cheap? All you really need is milk and not the cow.
Hapo umegonga ndipo. That is very true. Very absolutely true.
Why own a cow when buying milk is cheap?
So wacha nikwambie. Nilikuwa ninapenda kuku. Nikasema sasa tutakuwa tunaweka kuku hapa kwa ofisi. Tukaweka kuku, tulianza kuku 200, they did very well. Tukauza, tukaingia, nikasema sasa hii biashara ya kuku hata tutanunua incubator. Tuuze hata mayai. Niliuza incubator. Nilisema acha ninunue kuku.
Acha ninunue kuku ya kuku.
Ilifika wakati kuku inataka, tukafanya makosa, tukaleta layers. Nakwambia I would even miss to buy food for my kids, to buy food for this chicken. Zinakula, they're very maintaining some things is very expensive. So when you buy land, number one, you just know that kuna land rates lazima ulipie. Then you develop some form of laziness because it's in shamba yako. But when you're leasing land, you have to make sure that every time that land is available, it is in use.
Are there no limitations probably for leasing? If I lease land today,
yes.
Am I not limited? Is there way I'm limited in any way?
Yes, there are very many ways that you will be limited, for sure. But if you look at it very critically, kila kitu kiko na uzuri wake na ubaya wake. Yes. Everything has its advantages and disadvantages. The advantages of leasing land is number one. When you stop farming, you pack your goods and leave. When you bought the land, lazima utakuwa unalipa mtu akae hapo hata kama hakuna kitu inaendelea.
That time I leased land alafu ikawa nimechoka kulima. Na ile pesa nilikuwa nimelipa sasa sijamaliza 3 years. So after 2 years sasa pesa zangu zilibaki huko.
Lakini wewe si muungwana. How do you lease land and not farm?
No, I was going very far.
Exactly. And you see, one of the things that is very critical, and I tell farmers, because farmers normally ask me, no, is there a place I can lease land? To say yes. How much? 40,000 an acre a year. Oh, that's very expensive. There's a place that you can get at 8,000. I will tell them, just go there. And there. Then 3 months later, you know, the place I took was very far. Is the farm that you told me still available?
So I'll ask this.
Yes.
If I'm leasing a farm,
yes,
should I look what I'm planting on that particular farm?
Standard procedure. Yeah. Don't lease land and plant sisal. Don't lease land and plant something you'll harvest after 1.5 years. No. Don't lease land and plant avocado. Stop that nonsense.
So lease land and plant watermelon?
Kitu ambayo unaona kwa meza yako daily. Hata kama uliona watermelon kama kupika. Something that you see. Actually, when you're leasing land, is short term.
Yes.
Don't lease land for long term. Unless this person is going to give you land for 10 years. You can grow.
When you talk of short term, probably looking at maybe per planting season.
Ukuwe na season 3 kwa hiyo shamba.
Okay.
In that year. Plant something that will take 3 months, maximum 4 months.
But if you're saying that,
yes,
most of us, most of Kenyans are leasing land to grow maize.
So now
I've seen it
in Kitale and the rest. Yes. But what is the yield?
Especially Trans-Nzoia, Rift Valley.
Yes. What is the yield?
And this maize.
Yes.
They plant it March, April. They harvest
November.
That is why the cost of food is high, because we have lied to ourselves that Western Kenya is specifically Rift Valley is the bread basket. That's a lie.
Really?
It is a lie because it is only like that because there's accessible land.
So you should advise.
How many bags of maize do people in Rift Valley get per acre?
So where is the food basket? Trans-Nzoia?
Food basket is where you can produce food within the shortest time and a higher yield. I will not lie to you that.
Someone
How
will
many of those farmers in Trans Nzoia test their soil? I want you to be, in fact, we'll run a poll.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'd ask this again.
Yes.
I'm leasing this land, probably in Nakuru, Joros there.
Yes.
Someone would say, if I want to plant my cabbages there,
Yes.
I'll have to irrigate this farm, I'll have to do this and this and this.
Yes.
So I'd see the cost of these things that I'm being told.
Yes.
It's very high.
No.
And
so now you have to look at two things. You have to look at your capex and your opex, your capital expense and your operating expenses. Your capital expense when you're doing farming in Western Kenya is low because you don't need drip irrigation and all that.
Yeah.
But your ROI, your return on investment, it takes a longer time.
Yeah.
So you plant maize now, you have only one season of planting maize. Plant maize in April, harvest in November. Shamba imechoka. Hata ukitembea kwa hiyo shamba inafanya you plant that maize in Eastern Kenya,
yeah.
You can plant maize 2 seasons, higher yield, faster returns. So you have to look at your economies of scale.
Another thing people don't look, I've leased out a 3 acre, 4 acres, 5 acres.
Yes.
But I'll plant one crop the entire farm. I won't divide to different crops.
That is now where I'm saying when you're leasing land, you have to make sure that you're leasing land in an area that you can grow at least 2 or 3 crops in an acre. Reason being, somebody who's coming to buy pilipili hoho atakujia nyanya, atakujia kitungu.
Lakini
yes,
hapo kwa different crops and lease land and problem doing watermelon.
Yes.
There's a reason I keep preferring watermelon.
Watermelon.
Why would I have any other thing? I mean, if I am a farmer who I'm just a watermelon farmer.
No, there's nothing like watermelon farmer because even you ukipewa watermelon kilo 3 hapo hautashiba, hautamaliza. You have to diversify. As a farmer, you have to diversify. Why? Because watermelon prices is not constant across.
Yes.
So make sure that you have a crop that saves you. You know, I say if you have an acre, grow 4 different crops.
But most farmers fear one thing, to try out new things.
Those are not farmers. Those are investors. Investors fear where to invest.
I found
That's
someone
not a farmer.
in this farm.
Yes.
I'll repeat the same thing.
Yes.
Knowing this, the nutrients in this soil have been used.
Depleted completely.
Yeah, completely. So I can come up with another crop, plant it, and use the remaining nutrients that can do well with another crop.
So what you do is that's why you actually need Omnia fertilizer, because they help you with products that are superb to be able to correct your soil, to be able to boost the nutrients in the soil, to activate the microorganisms in the soil, to be able to be active, for the soil to regenerate itself. Yeah. Remember, even the human body, you are exhausted as much as you're exhausted. Remember the other day when you're coming, when exhausted, you're trying to drive. In fact, I was telling this guy, when you sleep, the body regenerates itself. The same with crops. When you're planting crops, the advantage of having different crops is the fact that if you're planting in this portion, this an 1/8 of an acre, a different crop, another crop, you will rotate. When you rotate, you realize that ukirotate, useme hapa ulikuwa na mahindi, umepanda maharagwe, nitrogen fixation occurs. Nutrients ambazo zilikuwa zinachukuliwa na mahindi zinarudi chini. Unazungusha tena, unasema hapa ndapanda watermelon. Wale madudu walikuwa hapo, hiyo madudu yote inatoka, inapandwa tuweka kitunguu. So that when you are doing that, what you're actually doing is actually you're having a sustainable economic activity on the farm.
Yeah.
Meaning, ukipanda kitunguu shamba yote 5 acres kitunguu, which I'm not saying it is bad.
Yeah.
But when you harvest that kitunguu of 5 acres, you have to wait for another 4 months to go to the market. So if you are growing different crops on 5 acres, at any given time you're in the market, you're getting your returns. Farming is not for investors. You will fail, you will not make money. Utasema wakulima haifai.
I think we also need that discussion separately in terms of intercropping and all that.
Yes.
Because you've left me
haujanipata.
Nimekupata lakini what about this farmer? There are those farmers who are very particular.
Nimekuacha kwa stage.
They're very particular on maybe this is what I want to venture in. They are there, right?
Yeah.
We have seen farmers who ni vitunguu, it's potatoes, tomatoes, melon, you know.
Those are advanced farmers.
Okay.
But those farmers, you cannot, for me I'm talking about a farmer who is 1-2 years into farming.
Okay.
first of all, you need to know that, and that's why our soils in Western Kenya are so depleted. Sugarcane, the yield is so low. Yet the fertilizer that is there can actually be. You can actually, when you harvest the sugarcane, you can actually plant viazi using the same fertilizer that was there in the sugarcane.
Farmer education
and grow
is important.
and harvest.
Actually,
You can grow groundnuts and harvest even more as you wait for the groundnuts for the
sugarcane
to go up.
I saw someone interpret.
Mirara, do you know how much a kilo of groundnuts is?
No, I don't know. I won't.
I know.
I don't know. How much is it?
Let me talk of 2 kgs. Goro. 2
2
kgs, 400 shillings, 400 for 50. Actually, that is 2 kgs.
Na hiyo ni ile
2 kgs. So that means that
iko na ile cover bado.
No, kama umetoa cover is 400.
Yes,
you see. So that means a kg is around 200, but it varies with the
varies,
market.
200, 300 shillings.
But it really pays.
If.
And it's only 3 months.
Yes. If we were to do that and grow, sugarcane farmers wange harvest groundnuts as they wait for the whatever. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for those who've been watching us. This has been a Farmers Breakfast Show from County 034. We love you. We want to continue helping you as a farmer, as a stakeholder in this industry, to be able to connect, learn and grow. Last words.
Farmers, just remember to take care of yourself. Ensure that you're vaccinated against COVID-19.
Yes.
Very, very important. We are not yet out of the hoods. So please take good care of yourself. We still need you as a farmer. We need your food from the farm, you know. Exactly. So we love you, farmers. Keep connecting with us on social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Africa Farmers Club. We really value your feedback, and we want to get to know which are these particular areas that we feel like we really need to talk about as we talk about farming, you know. See you again.
Very interesting.
Continue protecting yourself. If you're not vaccinated, go get vaccinated. COVID is there, it's still with us. It haven't gone away. I'd suggest you keep maintaining the precautions and measures that were kept by the government.
Thank you. I have one proverb. This proverb says, one who is willing to bath with cold water does not feel cold. See you tomorrow, same time.
Morning.